Hi students, today let us continue our session on linguistics. In the last class, we have discussed the nature of language, different branches of learning related to language and so on. Today, we will move on to the next topic, how language is produced. So the first key term that we should learn is the mechanism behind the production of language. So basically, we need a stream of air to produce speech sounds. We need an air stream to produce speech sound. Where does it come from? As we all know, we inhale air. We breathe in and we breathe out, right? So, the air that we inhale is stored inside our lungs. So, the air which is stored inside our lungs is being used for the production of human sounds. How does it come out? So, when the walls of the lungs contract, as a result of the functioning of respiratory muscles, the airstream from the lungs is pushed outside. It passes through the windpipe and then it is ventilated. It is let outside. And this mechanism is made use of in the production of human speech sounds. And it has a name. This airstream mechanism has got a name, that is pulmonic aggressive airstream mechanism. Pulmonic, anything that is connected to our lungs is pulmonary, right? So that's why the term pulmonic. Air that is stored from the lungs is being used for the production of speech sounds. Therefore the name pulmonic. And aggressive, something is let outside, something is pushed to the outside, and therefore the term aggressive. And what mechanism? It's an airstream mechanism. Human speech is produced with the help of a stream of air. So in short, we can say that English language makes use of an airstream mechanism to produce the sounds in it. And the name of the airstream mechanism is pulmonic aggressive airstream mechanism. I hope it is clear to you. I repeat the name of that mechanism, pulmonic aggressive airstream mechanism. Now, let us learn the organs of speech in detail. This is something which we already knew. Organs of speech. Which are the organs of speech? Try to name them. Exactly. Your tongue. In general, your mouth. Then your lips. Of course, your nose is also involved. And we are going to learn the organs of speech in detail today. We can classify them under three heads. 1. Respiratory system. 2. Phonatory system. And the third one is articulatory system. So all the organs of speech fall under any of these three categories. Which are they? Respiratory system, phonatory system, and articulatory system. Let us begin with the first one, respiratory system. What are the elements involved, or which are the organs of speech involved in respiratory system? Of course, your lungs. That's a storehouse of air, right? Lungs. And then the windpipe. The windpipe, which is also known as trachea. Those of you who have learned biomaths for your plus 2 knows very well what trachea is, right? You know all those biological terms. So the air that is stored inside your lungs is pushed outside through the windpipe, which is also known as trachea. And of course, the chest muscles should function properly. Only then this expulsion of airstream can happen. Okay, so lungs, the chest muscles, and the windpipe or trachea. These three together constitute the respiratory system. And we are moving on to the second one, phonatory system. Phonatory system involves larynx. What is larynx? The end of the windpipe or trachea. The tip of the windpipe or trachea is known as larynx. Generally, people use the word Adam's apple for that. Hope you have heard of that term, Adam's apple. So in the larynx, we will find a pair of lip-like structures called vocal cords. Vocal cords are also known as vocal folds. So in the larynx, you will find a pair of lip-like structures called vocal cords or vocal folds. So they are placed horizontally there at the tip of the larynx, and they are joined in the front, and they can be moved apart. At the other part, they can either be held close to each other or they can be moved apart from each other. So the space in between the two vocal cords, it's known as glottis. The space in between the vocal cords is known as glottis. Okay, as I told you, vocal cords are joined at one end and they are separated at the other end, and they can either be held close to each other or they can be moved far apart. So when the vocal cords are far apart, the airstream can freely pass through them without creating any vibration, without any sort of obstruction. So if that is the case, then the sound produced is a voiceless sound. I repeat, when the vocal cords are held far apart from each other, the airstream that comes from the lungs can easily pass through the windpipe and through the vocal cords, and there is no vibration or obstruction. So thus we get voiceless sounds. I repeat, voiceless sounds. For example, sounds like p, ch, k, and so on. But there is another case when the vocal cords are held close to each other, and when the air from the lungs come up, it has to be pushed to the outside through the vocal cords. As a result of this, the vocal cords start vibrating because they were lying close with each other, and when the airstream is pushed through the vocal cords, it results in the vibration of the vocal cords, and as a result we get voiced sounds. Voiced sounds. For example, sounds like b, d, g, etc. In order to understand it easily, I can help you. Just place your finger against your throat and try saying b, d, and g. Don't you feel a kind of vibration? Yes. So, such sounds are produced by the vibration of vocal cords because the airstream is pushed through the vocal cords, because the vocal cords were lying close to each other and the airstream was pushed through them, resulting in a vibration, and that's why you got voiced sounds like b, d, and g. But if you say p, ch, and k, and if you place the finger here, you don't feel the vibration there. Do you feel it? No, there's a difference. So this is how you can easily understand whether the sounds are voiceless or voiced sounds. So what's the reason behind that? It's the position of the vocal cords. So all these organs come under the head phonatory system. So I repeat, the second one is phonatory system. It includes larynx. Larynx is the upper portion or the tip of the windpipe. And in the larynx you can find a pair of lip-like structures called vocal cords or vocal folds. And the space in between the vocal cords is known as glottis. And an important factor about the vocal cords is this: they are joined at one end and separated at the other end. There are two possibilities. Sometimes these vocal cords may be held close to each other. Some other times it will be held separated from each other. As a result, we get voiced sounds and voiceless sounds. Is that clear to you? Okay. Now we are moving on to the third and the most important system, that is articulatory system. What do you mean by the word articulation? It's nothing but production of human speech sounds. Articulation is another word for the production of human speech sounds. So articulatory system contains articulators, or the organs of speech which are involved in the production of speech are called articulators. So generally speaking, we can say it involves your oral cavity and your nasal cavity and your pharynx. Okay, pharynx comes after larynx. So the air passes from the lungs through the windpipe, then to the larynx and then to the pharynx, and then it is let out either through the oral cavity or through the nasal cavity. So we have to learn about the oral cavity and the nasal cavity. So what do you mean by the oral cavity? It's nothing but your mouth, right? Yeah. Mouth. It includes your upper lip, your lower lip, then your tongue, your upper row of teeth, and then the roof of the mouth, and so on. So let us try to feel the various parts of this oral cavity or your mouth. So this is your upper lip, this is your lower lip, and then you have this thing, your upper row of your teeth. The upper row of your teeth, lower row of your teeth. Then you have, if you just feel the back portion of your upper teeth row, you can feel it. Try feeling it. Don't you feel a hard portion just above the upper row of teeth? Behind the upper row of teeth? Yeah, that is what you mean by the teeth ridge. That is what you mean by the teeth ridge. The hard portion that is just above the upper row of teeth is your teeth ridge. That is also known as alveolum. That's also known as alveolum, or the teeth ridge, or the alveolar ridge. And now if you take your tongue a little more backward, you will find a hard portion on your roof of your mouth. I can feel it now. Try feeling it. Yes, the hard portion that lies just behind the alveolum or the teeth ridge. That hard portion is called the hard palate. The hard palate. Feel it? Okay. Now try to move your tongue a little more backwards. You can feel it. A soft portion. It's not as hard as the hard palate. That portion of your roof of the mouth which lies behind your hard palate is called soft palate. Soft palate. And if you try moving your tongue further, it would be difficult, right? All of us know that it's a fleshy area, a very soft area. So that fleshy part, finger-like fleshy projection, which you can find especially when you are affected with tonsils and so on. If you just observe your mouth with a torch, you can find a fleshy like portion behind your soft palate. That is what you mean by velum. V-E-L-U-M, velum, a fleshy finger-like projection. Okay, and the soft palate of the roof of the mouth can be either raised or lowered. Don't you feel it? Yeah, the soft portion can slightly be raised or lowered. Try doing that. Yes? Okay. So this is what you mean by the roof of the mouth. It has 3 areas, or I should say 4. The teeth ridge, the hard palate, the soft palate, and then the velum. Okay, and behind velum again, after velum comes the fleshy finger like thing called uvula, U-V-U-L-A, uvula, that you can see if you open your mouth widely and if you observe it, you can see your uvula. Okay, so that is all about the roof of the mouth. And then the tongue. If you just hold your tongue out, you can understand this is the tip of the tongue, and the sides, the blade of the tongue. The tip and the blade together constitutes the apex of the tongue. Okay, and the front of the tongue and the back of the tongue. It goes without explanation, right? You know how to understand front of the tongue and the back of the tongue. And back of the tongue can be either raised or lowered. Okay, so now let us learn oral sounds and nasal sounds. As I told you, the soft palate of the roof of the mouth is movable. That is, it can either be raised or lowered. If it is lowered, then the oral cavity is closed and the nasal cavity is open, and the air escapes or air passes out through the nose. Thus we get nasalized sounds or nasal sounds like and or m, n. It can either be said as m, n, or and When does it happen? It's because the soft palate is kept lowered and the oral cavity is closed. And then the nasal cavity is open, letting the air go out through it. So we get nasalized sounds. But if it's the other way around, the soft palate is raised, slightly raised. As a result, try saying k and g. So you can understand that the back portion, the soft palate is raised slightly. Therefore, the nasal passage is closed. So the air cannot escape through your nose. K, g. Air cannot escape through your nose. It can escape only through the oral cavity. So when the soft palate is raised slightly, the nasal cavity is closed and air is pushed outside the mouth, and thus we get oral sounds. So you need to understand that there are 2 categories, oral sounds and nasal sounds. Oral sounds, those sounds which we get when the nasal cavity is closed and the oral cavity is open. And nasalized sounds are those which we get when the nasal cavity is open and the oral cavity is closed. It all depends on the position of the soft palate. Is that clear to you? Okay. And now we will move on to the active articulators and passive articulators. Articulator is nothing but an organ of speech which is involved in the production of speech. So active means that which is very active, that which is moving, that which is mobile. And passive articulator is an organ of speech which is rather passive, which remains stationary or which has a very little movement. Okay, so for example, take the upper lip, the upper row of teeth and so on. You cannot move it much. So they are all passive articulators. But your tongue, it is movable, right? Yeah, it's a mobile articulator, it's an active articulator. And your lower lip, so when you say p, b and so on, your lower lip is also moving actively. So this is an active articulator. So broadly speaking, you can classify articulators or the organs of speech into 2. Active articulators and passive articulators. Okay, in the production of speech sounds, one articulator is moving towards another articulator which is remaining stationary. Okay, so I hope you can understand that tongue is an active articulator, your lower lip is an active articulator, and your roof of the mouth, your upper row of teeth, your teeth ridge, your upper lip and all, they are all passive articulators. All these are given in detail in your textbook. Okay, you have to keep your textbook along with you while you prepare and listen to the video, underline all the important words, and then it will remain in your mind. Okay, and now let me tell you something. There are some sounds which are produced with the help of both your lips. Try saying p, b, m, etc. You understood that your upper lip is involved and your lower lip is involved. So both the lips are involved. So we call such sounds bilabial sounds. Labial means that which involves your lips. Bi means two. So a sound that is produced with the involvement of two lips, both the lips, is called a bilabial sound. For example, p, b, etc. But in certain other cases, the lower lip is moving and it's moving against the upper row of teeth. For example, take the case of the sounds f and v. See, as I say, fan, van. So what happened in the articulation of f? My lower lip is moving against the upper row of teeth, and van, my lower lip is moving against the upper row of teeth. So which are the organs involved here? The upper row of teeth and the lower lip. So these two sounds, f and v, were produced with the help of the dental organ and the labial part, lip and teeth. So these sounds are known as lip teeth sounds or labiodental sounds. Labiodental, which means involving your lip and your teeth. Lip teeth sounds is yet another name for that. So I hope it's clear to you. So there is the component parts of articulatory system. So today we have tried to learn the production of human speech sounds, and I started with the airstream mechanism that English uses, and we learned the term pulmonic aggressive airstream mechanism, and we moved on to the organs of speech. We can subdivide them into three categories, namely respiratory system, phonatory system, and articulatory system. And we learned all the constituent parts of the respiratory system, phonatory system, and articulatory system. I hope all these terms are clear to you, and the textbook will help you a lot in understanding this because it includes diagrams with proper labels on it, and we will of course make a recap before we end the session. Thank you.